Most people think the hard part of turning 88 is the arthritis in your knuckles, or the little orange pill bottles lined up on the counter like soldiers, or the letter from the DMV asking you to come back in for another vision test. I believed that too for a long time, but I can tell you plainly, the truth turned out to be something smaller and quieter than any of that. The truth is standing in your own kitchen at 6 in the evening, holding one plate, one fork, one coffee cup, and realizing there is nobody left in the house to set the table for. My name is Josephine Ruth Callahan. I spent 41 years as a school librarian, stamping due date cards and shushing children who never once listened to me, and I loved nearly every minute of it. My husband Frank and I were married 56 years. He passed 6 years ago this coming October. And after the funeral, after the casseroles stopped arriving and the sympathy cards stopped coming through the mail slot, I was left with a house built for 2 people and a life that suddenly only needed to fit one. I will not pretend that first year was anything but brutal. I sat some nights in Frank's recliner, the good one by the window, just because it still smelled faintly of his aftershave. I talked to a photograph of him on the mantel like it might eventually answer me back. For a long while, I believed I had exactly 2 choices left. Shrink my whole life down small enough to fit inside the silence, or somehow find a way to fill it. What I did not expect, and what took me nearly 3 years to understand, is that the filling did not come from feeling better on the inside first, the way the greeting cards promise it will. It came from 6 specific, unglamorous, almost boring things I built into my week, out here in the actual world, whether I felt like doing them or not. I want to walk you through all 6 today, slowly, because I suspect some of you are sitting in a quiet living room right now wondering if this is simply what is left for you. It is not. Let me show you exactly what changed. The first thing was a 14-pound orange tabby cat named Biscuit. I want to be honest with you, I did not want a cat. My neighbor, a woman named Doris, who lives 2 doors down and has opinions about everything, drove me to the county shelter against my own better judgment about 4 months after Frank died. She said, and I remember the exact words, "Josephine, you do not have to want him. You only have to feed him." Out of 40 or so cats in that building, I picked the ugliest, crankiest looking one they had, because something about his sour, unimpressed face reminded me of Frank, first thing in the morning, before his coffee. Here is what nobody tells you about getting an animal at 80-something. It is not really about the company, not at first, and I think that surprises people. It is about the 7:15. Biscuit expects his dry food at 7:15 sharp, not 7:30, not 7. And he plants himself directly on my chest and stares at me with those flat yellow eyes until I get up and provide it. Before Biscuit arrived, I had entire mornings where I simply did not get out of bed until 11 o'clock. Because what, exactly, was the difference? Now something with a heartbeat needs me to be vertical by 7:15 sharp. That is not a small thing. Some mornings, honestly, that is the entire reason my feet touch the floor at all. He sleeps at the foot of the bed on Frank's old side, which I did not plan and would not have allowed myself if I had thought it through in advance. He knocks a single earring off my dresser roughly once a week and hides it somewhere I never find until spring cleaning. Doris still asks me, every few months, whether I have forgiven her yet for the shelter trip. I tell her I will consider it. We both know I already have. The second thing was a Tuesday. Specifically, Tuesdays at 10 in the morning, at the Fairmont Senior Center, at a folding table with a torn green felt top, playing bridge with 3 people I did not choose and would never have crossed paths with otherwise. A flyer for it was taped up on the corkboard at my pharmacy, right next to a notice for a lost beagle, and I stood there reading it for a good 10 minutes, trying to talk myself out of walking through that door. I had not held a bridge hand since 1987. I want to be careful about something here, because I think people misunderstand this part. I did not join for the cards. I joined because a standing Tuesday appointment means somebody notices the exact day you do not show up. My very first month, I missed a Tuesday because of a head cold, and a man named Robert Delacroix, whom I had known for exactly 3 weeks at that point, telephoned my house that same afternoon to ask, in a fairly gruff voice, whether I was lying dead in a ditch somewhere. Nobody had checked on me that fast in years. A weekly commitment you cannot quietly skip is worth more, I have come to believe, than 100 vague promises from people to reach out sometime. Robert brings the same thermos of black coffee every single week and never offers anyone a cup, which the other 2 women find outrageous and I secretly find hilarious. The 4th chair at our table has changed hands 3 times since I joined, as people move away or, once, pass on, and each time somebody new sits down within a month or 2. The table itself does not seem to notice who is sitting at it. It just keeps expecting somebody. The 3rd thing was a coffee tin. This one I am nearly embarrassed to tell you, but I promised myself I would be honest with you today. I keep an old Folgers tin sitting on the kitchen counter, and every time a worry gets its claws into me sometime during the week, I write it down on a scrap of paper and drop it inside. My daughter is eventually going to sell this house and put me somewhere. Biscuit is limping again as it is hip. The furnace made that clicking noise again last night. In it goes. Every Sunday afternoon, and only Sunday afternoon, I sit down with a cup of tea and I go through the tin, one slip at a time. Here is the part that genuinely surprised me. Most weeks, 6 or 7 of the 8 or 9 scraps sitting in there have already resolved themselves by the time Sunday arrives, or turned out to be nothing at all. The furnace noise was a loose panel a repairman fixed in 4 minutes. Biscuit's limp was a burr caught in his paw. Worry, left to run wild through your entire week, will eat you alive from the inside. Worry, given 1 appointment a week and a coffee can to live inside until then, turns out to be a much smaller animal than you think it is. The 4th thing was learning to use a tablet, badly, at 86 years old. My grandson Miles, he is 22, set up a video calling app on a secondhand tablet for me 2 years ago and then, bless him, drove the 4 hours back home and left me to work out the rest entirely on my own. For the first 3 weeks, I genuinely believed the little camera icon was somehow going to record me without my permission, so I covered it with a strip of masking tape. What finally cracked the whole thing open was pure stubbornness. I wanted to see my great-granddaughter Ada's actual face on her actual birthday, not 2 weeks later in a photograph somebody printed out at the drugstore counter. So I telephoned Miles 7 separate times in one evening, asking him the same 3 questions. And by the end of that call, I had watched Ada blow out 2 candles from 400 miles away, frosting smeared clean across her nose, live, while it was genuinely happening in front of me. Now I keep a standing call with them most Sunday evenings, right after I have gone through the coffee tin. I am, without a shred of doubt, the worst typist in my entire family. I have made my peace with that. Ada is 4 now, and she has taken to holding random objects up to her own camera and demanding I identify them. A hairbrush, a spoon, once memorably a hamster named Senor Whiskers who did not appreciate the attention. I have learned to keep my reading glasses within arm's reach at all times, because the calls come whenever Ada decides they should, and there is no dignified way to ask a 4-year-old to schedule around your bedtime. The fifth thing was a chair. Not a special chair, mind you, just a plain folding metal one, set up in a row of 11 identical others every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 in the morning for a class the center calls gentle-seated stretching, which is really just a polite way of saying chair yoga for people whose knees have strong opinions about the floor. I went the first time only because Robert Delacroix, my bridge friend, more or less shamed me into it over a hand of cards. I will tell you plainly, I was stiff as a fence post that entire first month. My shoulders had been rounded up around my ears for so long I had not even noticed they were doing it. But somewhere around the 6th week, something happened I did not expect. My back stopped aching every time I stood up from the sofa. I could reach the good china on the top shelf again without dragging the little step stool over. It was not really about becoming limber, exactly. It was about my own body slowly starting to feel like an ally again, instead of a slow-moving complaint I dragged around behind me all day. Our instructor, a cheerful woman named Marlene, who cannot be a day under 70 herself, ends every single class the same way, telling us to place a hand flat on our own chest and simply notice that it is still rising and falling. The first few times, I found that almost unbearable. Now it is my favorite 40 seconds of the entire week. The sixth thing, and this is the one that mattered most of all, was Thursday mornings at the public library, the very branch where I used to work. About a year after Frank passed, I telephoned the branch and asked the new head librarian, a young woman named Priya, whether they needed a volunteer for the children's story hour. I fully expected her to say they were already full up. Instead, she said, and I still remember the plain relief in her voice, "Mrs. Callahan, I have been trying to find someone reliable for 8 solid months. Every Thursday at 10:30, I sit down in the same low rocking chair I used 40 years ago, and I read aloud to a rug full of 4- and 5-year-olds who could not care less that I am carrying a doctorate's worth of grief quietly behind my ribs. Last Thursday, a little boy named Desmond, missing both front teeth, informed me that my voice sounds exactly like his grandmother's, and then asked, with total and complete sincerity, whether I was secretly a witch, because witches read the good stories properly. I told him only on Thursdays. He seemed entirely satisfied with that answer and went back to picking at the rug. Priya keeps trying to pay me in gift cards to the coffee shop across the street, and I keep declining, and we have settled into a small ongoing argument about it that neither of us particularly wants to win. Last month she asked if I would consider coming in on Saturdays too for the older children's book club, and I surprised myself entirely by saying yes before I had finished hearing the whole question. Purpose, I have slowly come to learn, does not need to be enormous in order to be real. It only needs to be scheduled. It only needs somebody out there genuinely expecting you to show up. So here is where I have landed, plainly, without dressing any of it up for you. If you are sitting alone tonight in a house that suddenly feels far too big and far too quiet, do not wait around to feel better before you go and build a life for yourself. Build the life first, in small, scheduled, unglamorous pieces, and let the feeling catch up to it afterward, in its own time. Get something that genuinely needs feeding by 7:15 sharp. Find one appointment a week that somebody else will actually notice if you skip. Give your worry a container, and exactly one day it is allowed out of that container. Learn the clumsy new thing, badly, for as long as it takes you, because even a clumsy video call still shows you your great-granddaughter's real face on her real birthday. Move your body on a fixed schedule, even sitting in a plain folding chair, and find one single hour a week where a child or a neighbor or anybody at all genuinely needs you to be the one who shows up. None of this erased my grief, and I want to be honest with you about that too. I still set out 2 coffee cups some mornings out of pure old habit before I catch myself and put one back in the cupboard. I still miss Frank every single day of my life, and I fully expect I will go on missing him until the day I finally join him. But my house is not empty anymore, not the way it was those first few years. It has a cranky orange cat living in it now, and a coffee tin full of steadily shrinking worries, and a standing Sunday call with a little girl named Ada, and 3 mornings a week spent in a folding chair, and Thursdays that belong entirely to a rug full of children who half suspect I might be a witch. If any of this sounds like your own Tuesday, or your own empty kitchen, or your own coffee tin still waiting to be filled, tell me down in the comments which one of these 6 you are going to try first, and how old you are, and where you are listening from tonight. I read every single comment myself, and if you know somebody sitting alone in a quiet house right now who needs to hear that it is not too late to build something, please send this video their way. Subscribe if you would like to sit with me again next time, because I have quite a bit more I want to tell you. In the meantime, be gentle with that heart of yours. Mine, these days, is doing just fine.